So Nadine, you are a body worker. You're a body worker, you're a massage therapist, a yoga teacher, and a dancer primarily. Would you call yourself one thing or the other primarily, or are you all of it?
I'm all of it. I think that words are terrible, and
Words are terrible. We'll start there. Words are terrible.
I don't know. We label ourselves based on what we've been educated in, but does that explain who we are, what we give to the world? I don't think so. I still don't know a word that explains it, but I would say I'm an artist, and I use the body to access. I use the physical body as a gateway in towards the creative expression of self.
When I was in a college class called relationships, one of the things that we covered was these different types of people. I think it was mainly like in the context of communication, how you prefer to interact with the world. And so one of the things is, it was actually a big moment in my college career to learn this, because I had no idea that there could be, well, I had an idea, but I didn't know the exact terms for it. So there was like the visually centered people, the auditory centered people, and then there was the kinesthetic, which is more body centric. So I suppose you'd fall into that category of kinesthetic oriented people. So in terms of that, like your major push to express would be through the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what you're primarily interested in.
Yeah. In any way that we can access that is what I'm after. And I think for me, there needs to be a very strong balance between the technical aspect of all of that, of like the body and the physical form, or the physicality or the form of any of yoga or massage or dance.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be balanced with the just the creative expression. Mm-hmm. So even though I love the clinical aspect of things, the science aspect of things, if it's not joined with the creative expression, then I lose interest in it, and I think it's less useful as a well-rounded tool then.
Well, that's probably why you're a dancer, not a doctor then, right?
But I'm a kind of dancer, am I? I've moved more into free-form improvisational dance, which doesn't mean I've thrown, I don't know. They always told you in school, you have to learn the technique and then you get to throw the technique out. Right. And that doesn't mean that you actually stopped using the technique. It's just that I think my goal with other people is to get them so well informed with the technical aspect or the technique of the body, so that then they can just fuse it, utilize it without having to think about it. It's just ingrained in there then, and then it's just creative expression. But it holds that technique in it, right? That's, I would say it's usually our goal with things.
Right, so you try to kind of put more of the onus of one's relationship with the body on the person, rather than, like if you go to the doctor, you just go, I don't know, doc, and they give you a prescription or, tell you to favor the other leg or whatever, but you're trying to get people to engage their own body, right? I mean, that's what I'm gathering from this like giving a tool set, like you said, or when the tape wasn't rolling. So you're revealing this suite of tools that a person uses themselves. Maybe not to self-diagnose, but to just right? Just to make a connection.
Yeah, there's just one little passage from Pema Chodron that I like to repeat in yoga classes that she says that one of the things she liked about Buddhism was that the in its concept was here are the ideas, now you find out how you feel about them, and that experimenting, and I think that more and more in yoga and massage and whatnot, we do come to that more of, okay, here we know that the leg does this, flexion, extension of the knee, okay, great, but that's the best example because it's pretty straightforward, but we have an idea of how the body does something or how to heal from something, but you have to also experiment, and it's not just your physical form, it's your mental attitude, it's your emotional state, it's your memories and your past that are all going to influence how you approach that good idea about how to heal an injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Heal an injury of any sort?
Of any sort, yeah.
So, do you think that we're born with this sort of relationship, or do we have to build it, cultivate it, or whatever? Do we have to like come to you with our own ideas about how we relate to our bodies, or is it just like try to be open to a new way, like a revolutionary way of thinking?
I think that we're born very creative, but we may have many levels of stifling along the way that of growing up, that and just what is expected of us, that we lose so much of it. That I ask myself this all the time. It's like, how do I even know what my intuition is? How can I listen to my intuition if I don't know what intuition is? It's like we've lost so much that
as a species, you mean, as modern humans, or
it's modern humans, definitely. So there's a bit of re-educating, I think, just to stir it up again.
Yeah, re-educating can be dangerous in the context of dictatorial, leadership. But
it'll all come crashing down the more we realize the potential that's been in us all along.
Sure. Well, yeah, you're kind of. I guess the not so revolutionary idea, but maybe revolutionary for the person, is realizing that they are autonomous. Mm-hmm. Employing these tools might inspire a growth in a certain direction that you weren't anticipating, right?
Yeah, and that you were craving, whether you knew exactly what it was or not, but you knew that there was something missing.
Right.
But I also want to throw in there that, do you need to come to me or to a teacher? I say yes, that is also there. We've talked a lot about the loss of student-teacher relationship in general. Everybody wants to be the teacher. And it's really, I think once you start delving into something, you do feel like you need some assistance, some help along the way, some motivation, and some, again, going back to tools, and some tools. So that, I use meditation as a tool. I know different tools of meditation that help me, the concentration exercises that help me in times, it's, for the physical body, we talked about this, that having the understanding of how the anatomy in the body works, so that you know what you're doing that's healthy and supportive, is useful to then unlock the good creative juices that we're looking for. But there are techniques and there is help through studies that make that much easier, more possible, safer.
Right. So that's one of the primary tools then, is meditation.
Yeah.
And you've done what, Vipassana, right? A couple of times?
I've done Vipassana twice for 10 days each.
10 days.
But
Like Like sitting in a room for 10 days.
10 hours a day.
10 days, 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you came away from that like thinking I would do it again, or you're like, oh my God, no.
I would do it again, and I'm just as afraid to do it again as I was to do it again the second time or do it the first time.
but you generally came away from it thinking that it changed you or helped you in some
It was
fantastic way.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done, and it was the most important thing I've ever done.
Hardest thing you've ever done?
Hardest thing I've ever done.
Like every day was hard, or it was just in total, like you would assess Vipassana as the hardest thing you've ever done?
It was the hardest thing I've ever done all day long, and it was the hardest thing I had done in 10 days.
And you would recommend doing it again?
And I would recommend, yeah. Because what do we run away from the most? What else is there to run away from other than ourselves?
I suppose you come to that point, some point in the day, of 10 hours of meditation.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get away from it.
Right, because I mean, from moment to moment, and we're so fragmented, moment to moment, just in our regular lives, that sitting there with yourself for 10 hours seems pretty unreal.
I mean, I was just making some jokes with a friend about holding yoga poses for a long time, and she said, remember when you used to make us hold them each pose for 3 minutes? And I was like, yeah, nobody really liked that. But
it's a long time to hold the pose.
Yeah, it can be,
sure.
Depending on the pose. But I think that I think it's really worthwhile hanging out in things, and I like moving fast and whatnot too, but to meditation of anything, of being able to keep your attention on what you're doing, whatever it may be, and keep your whole self in that attention. That I know where my body is right now while I'm talking to you. I know what I'm doing. I know what my position is. I know why I'm doing it, enough to make it worthwhile to assess it. And then you can tell me, why else I'm doing it. And putting yourself in a position like 10-day meditation just forces you to really get real about it. And I was just thinking this morning about the difference between living in a city versus living here in Taos, specifically even, step further in the Earthship, on the Mesa, and even further in the health crisis, where we're really spending time alone or by ourselves more. How far is that from my city life in Chicago, and do I miss it? And well, of course I do miss it on a lot of levels, but that was always something to do. And if you're feeling like, just maybe unmotivated, you're not sure what to do, there's a million things right outside the door you can go do. Places you can go, and and it's very entertaining, and it's super fun. And you get to learn a lot about culture, depending on what you choose. There's so much you can take in, which is fantastic. On the other side,
there's a big attitudinal shift then.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons why I left that, but here I am sitting in the Earthship with a lot of quiet time and a lot less to do, and as each day of the quarantine continues, I'm slowing down more and more. And yesterday I was like, what should I do? I guess I'll read some more. As if that were a less interesting thing to do, or I wasn't allowed to do it because it was so simple.
Right.
So I think that that's what the city is doing is it's constantly giving you something to do. It's constantly distracting you.
Constant stimulation.
Yeah, so when you are asked to sit in a pose for even a minute in yoga, it's there's a reason why we have an adverse reaction to that. That's wait, I'm with myself now? We feel very uncomfortable there, but we need to go there.
Yeah, well, what I'm noticing, in holding a yoga pose or doing anything that requires me to not succumb to all that stimulation, is that naturally stuff starts flowing the other direction, where my mind starts making all the noise.
Mm-hmm.
It's like coming back at me, but out of my own brain, and that's pretty startling when you,
Oh, yeah.
especially at the beginning when you've never really given yourself that that space. Then your brain's just like, what? I need to generate new material, and so that can be a little bit overwhelming.
And that's also why something like doing things even longer, staying longer in meditation, or the 10-day, is that we're trying to relax, or we're trying to exhaust the mind. Because it takes, I noticed after I left there and I would do, okay, I'll do 20 minutes because I don't have an hour, to sit. And I would spend the entire 20 minutes ding, 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 thought. And it was like, oh, you're kidding me. Right. And then I would let maybe 20, 25 minutes would start to exhaust itself. And in the 10-day, I got there, over and over again. I'd be like, oh.
You got
I got to the exhaustion point.
Where you weren't having so many thoughts.
They slowed down. They were still there, but they slowed down. But what I really came to was, that is so tiring. Like,
to have all those thoughts.
The amount of maybe quieter time meditation was very short.
Yeah.
But just the realization that you are exhausting.
Yeah.
You brain, you mind is very exhausting. And that is really worth us finding out how exhausting that is. Because we get used to it, and then we're exhausted and moody, and we don't know why.
Well, now we have the additional, onslaught of, thoughts coming through the phone, through the computer screen. Mm-hmm. Like, at least in my case, during a normal day, I must have 100,000, chunks of information going in my eyeballs, and that's another thing to realize, another soup that you're in that
right.
Maybe meditation would, I don't know, allow you a little bit of respite, or might cause a complete breakdown for both.
Yeah, complete breakdown would be probably a good thing. A safe one. I think that when someone comes for a massage or for a yoga class, there's a lot of expectation that 1 hour or 90 minutes is going to wash away the whole day. But I try to remind people, think how many hours of the day you have sat at that computer, or you have sat in a chair, or in the car.
Yeah.
And if you add all that up, and then you try to just come for 1 hour for something once a month or once a week or something, it's like, this is an all day long practice. That means you have to take breaks. And I don't care how annoying it might seem to stand up every 20 minutes and take a big cat stretch and then sit back down. You have to do it. And when you're done all day long looking at a computer, limiting the amount of time you're on the phone catching up with Facebook or friends. And not that it's bad, but it's just more time taking in that information and never leaving any space, coming back to space.
Yeah.
So now, as things continue at this pace, that may change if the economy, drastically shifts. But we're at a pace where we have to implement things that seemed really obvious, maybe at some other time in human history.
Yeah, well, I wanted to bring it back around to the crisis that we're in, because before we actually started rolling tape, we were talking about the coronavirus, COVID-19 business, and how body consciousness can assist us, or be help us to relate to our crisis mode that we're in. So maybe now that we're in this lockdown, we're week 6 now or something, that perhaps we've slowed down the freak out enough that certain ones of us who choose to could actually do this Hail Mary, long day of meditation and just see what it does to our everyday. I mean, ostensibly, like, everybody's in this position now where they could meditate for at least a chunk of the day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one way to try it out.
I mean, it's a start. Like, we could try all kinds of things regarding our relationship with the self, but that's
Mm-hmm.
I'm positing that could be a place to start. Would be to just try it,
Yeah, I think, because I like to experiment, I think it would be fun to.
I'm not just gonna.
I think it would be fun to do, a 5-minute sit, and then do a quiet, walk, and then do a 10-minute, then do a 20-minute, and work yourself up to notice the difference.
Just a walk.
Yeah, a walk or a sit or something, but do it at different time increments so that you can notice a difference if you sit for 5 minutes or if you're quiet for 5 minutes versus 10, 15, 20. Doing, I think my personality likes easing into things, doesn't like, I'm going to sit for, 4 hours. Seems a bit intense. But, so
you're suggesting starting with walking, which is less of maybe less of a foreign concept for the average American.
Yeah, and but if you sit in a chair versus sitting on the floor, because again, the physical work that we do, the education of how the physical body works, how joints and muscles work, and how the body responds, and how body posture helps with mental clarity, that having some knowledge of that helps us to be able to sit, if we're going to sit and be quiet. If you start sitting on the floor, you're going to be so distracted by the physical pain of doing that you won't get very far. So, sit in a chair instead without leaning back, and start there so your feet are on the floor and it's better position for the body. Or starting with walking, like a walking meditation where it's a quiet walk where you're focusing on, how your foot is hitting the ground, and and hopefully we can go outside somewhere to do that. But you can walk around in a circle in your house really slow too.
So you're suggesting doing something physical that's out of the ordinary, sitting on a couch or at your desk or whatever, just taking your body into a different position, if it's walking or sitting or sitting in a chair, but it's not like, it's just not engaging the body in an ordinary way.
Yeah.
So you, so you kind of, like, your main teaching modality is something like moving meditation, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not a sitting meditation; it's a moving meditation.
Yeah. I think that there's a huge benefit to sitting and not moving. But there's a huge benefit to moving. And since most of us sit or stand a large part of the day not moving, we have become so disconnected from the body that moving the body is essential. And it just is. And like I said, it helps sitting for meditation to be more possible because your body just feels better. It's, we have to move out the stagnation from being in one position.
Right.
Physically, we literally have to do that. But we've distanced ourselves so much from the body because I guess we can. Like the body functions, that's cool, it's doing that.
Well, if I just had a head and a thumb, that would be enough, really.
Right. It's just like body keep me going. I'm going to be over here because I have to work in order to survive, right? Or whatever, it's not like our fault that, that we have to be in work zone
right,
all
so
the
we're
time.
sort of forced to be, use our body in a very monotone sort of way, right?
Yeah, that's unfortunately where we are so much of the time, which is not cool. And so
Not cool.
we need to, so that means we have to do all this extra work in order to make the body, to reintegrate the body, taking yoga class, running, dancing, things like that.
So my question was really like, in regards to in juxtapositions to like a really devoted practice like vipassana or sitting meditation where you're, like, excuse me, like, like the classical Zen meditation where you're assuming a position and doing something very, staid and focused. That in juxtaposition to that, you're suggesting a connection with the body that involves movement.
Yeah.
That involves like the same meditative state,
Right.
but in a different body positional relationship.
Yeah. That there is the meditation, if you change that word and say mindfulness or awareness, that there is
Are those really interchangeable words?
Yeah. I didn't make that up.
Well, sometimes I think
Somebody else
not.
did.
Sometimes I think mindfulness and meditation aren't really the same thing.
But attention of the mind, to be aware of the mind, mindfulness.
I'll go with that. Sure.
So that's how I take it. Where was I going with that? Awareness. So awareness in everything that we're doing. So whether that's sitting or cooking, washing dishes, those are my harder times for awareness, and moving the body. So whatever we're doing, moving the body, whether it's dancing or something else that's physically oriented, that we do it with a full body awareness, aware of the physical form, the mental, emotional, spiritual, that all of that, we are open in awareness to that. That makes it a moving meditation. We're doing it with that awareness.
So something I've read a lot, or actually not so much read, but contemplated a lot in different schools, is the use of the body. So, you were kind of alluding to, or stating flatly, that you had tools, and that I asserted, well, perhaps the body itself is a tool. Like, the tools that you would offer are sort of a way of, like, they're a technique of getting into this relationship of mindfulness, engaging the body with a different sort of attitude or attention.
Yeah. There's so many. But,
what's one?
Well, I mean, I keep going first to the physical, but what I really want to talk about is the other stuff. There's always an element, there's always a tool of understanding how the physical body functions in joint movement, range of motion, things like that. Yeah, that aspect of the body. That's one tool.
So measurable.
Measurable, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then other tools, even within that, are things like, I don't know, I would basically call them games. Like close your eyes while you're doing something. It'll be a different experience. You'll feel your body in a different way, and it may open also up something else you weren't expecting, because if you put your mind into what you're doing, you see what arises from that. Mm-hmm. That could be connected to a past memory, directly related to your body, or maybe it's an emotion that you're holding somewhere in your body, like in your gut, it's made emotional centers.
Right. So you're saying that so in the sense that the like a tool would be a certain type of movement or a certain type of
or a type of way of moving or
just trying
a concept.
Yeah. That would generate some experience of the mind that you weren't heretofore prepared for.
Yeah.
You're saying.
Yeah, and that's how we learn about ourselves and ourselves in relation to our world. Yeah, that's one way to learn, is that you're just putting, you can, again, tools as games. So if in more of a free-form moving meditation, like in the MovementLab, which is more, we call that maybe more like a dance class, but it's playing with movement in a way that we try different things. Like we worked with, working, I didn't give away what we're going to do this week. But one of the things we'll work with this week is something that you're attached to. So we have an idea, we go, okay, what is something you love so much that you don't want to let go of? And then we take it into the body, into a shape. And I'm going to give the students a shape. And I'm going to say, now that shape is your attachment shape of, I don't want to let this thing go.
So you start with that idea and then you...
Yeah, and then put it in the body, and then feel it in the body. This is what it feels like to grip something so hard that I can't even breathe. And then, well, that doesn't feel good. And then asking the body to soften. And if you soften your edges, and physically I start to shift my form into something softer, something that says, I still love this thing or person, but I can't grip it. If I grip and hold on, I can't breathe because it felt like this in this posture that I took on. So I use my physical form to help me learn how to work with my world and my life.
So you can change your ideas about attachment, for example. Yeah.
By using the body in that way. So that would be what I would call it a game. It's taking on a concept, trying it in the body, and then seeing what you gain from it, what you learn from it about yourself and about your physical form.
So how will this help us in this crisis that we're in now, where everyone's body is at risk?
Well, again, we start at the basics, which is eat well and drink water and make sure you sleep and make sure you move your body. Okay, good. Now we're going to move our body. Okay, how are we going to move our body? And then we have an opportunity to put our mind into our body and move them together. And, okay, if we do that, we physically get more fit. Our mental chatter, stress gets more focused on a task. That's good for the mind. And then how about some creativity? And we have an opportunity where we're like, what else can I do? Or how else can I change the way I work that now I can't work? And so it starts to stir up creativity. And we're going to address now our day-to-day from a more creative aspect. And it doesn't mean you have to, like some people say, I'm not creative. It's like, well, you just haven't maybe, used that part of yourself. So now you could be something as simple as one of my students showed me. He made blocks for yoga props out of cardboard and tape. And I'm like, yeah, you might not sit on it, as the prop, but you're going to be able to use it for your hands to raise yourself up. So even that's creative. That's taking, opening ourselves up. And what else is inside of us that maybe we could remember something like, what did I want to be when I grow up? Or what did I love to do that I don't do anymore?
Right. So you can start some sort of self-reinvention from that.
Definitely. What's not serving you anymore that you felt kind of trapped in because you were stuck in your day-to-day pace that the society was telling you had to go at, that now the whole thing just disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, you have an opportunity to view things from a different angle, and that's cool. That's useful.
Yeah, well, it's going to have to be useful. I think, I mean, one thing I wanted to bring up is that, I mean, we're still kind of in this state of trauma, like, oh, wow, everybody's job just disappeared. But, and we're sort of in this barely post-traumatic state of, like, everything coming to a grinding halt. But I think as time goes on, we're going to need to start being more inventive about how we reapproach being in society. I mean, after 6 weeks of this, I'm already thinking like, gee, I don't have to do things the way I've been doing them for the last 6 or 8 years, and I actually don't have a choice. I have to do them differently. So,
well, and with something like this house, with the Earthship, is again me thinking about being in the city. That was fun and all, but I also knew that was really abusive to the planet. Right. And that pace and the congestion and pollution and all of that has to keep it at that pace. And to have the forced pause to be able to ask the question, is this how I want, like, does this way of living, is it serving me and is it serving others or the planet in a way that is has longevity,
right?
Right. And feels good, So, and I spent a lot of the time of being in this quarantine of feeling shocked and depressed and not motivated, and I think that's a really important point to bring up. That's really okay, and that if you sleep more right now instead of doing all those things on your to-do list, that's okay, because this is part of what we're going through, and we have to really nurture those parts that are very afraid and in shock with the shift, because that's a real part of it.
Sure, that's what I'm talking about, is this sort of traumatic situation has caused people, like I read somewhere recently, I can't remember where, it was probably on social media, that like some preliminary studies show that people are just, smoking a lot more weed and looking at more porn and doing their habitual, like, what I think is like a therapist once said, like, you're sitting there with the cookie jar just eating the cookies because you don't have any other options.
But your awareness, the meditation, is there. Even in that, it's important.
It's dormant, I would say.
But it would be worth paying attention while you sit there with your cookies and you're eating them. Just taking that moment with it to go, why am I doing this? Well, what is it that I'm feeling? So that I can be present, even if it is in the depression or the shock, or the fear. Right. But if I'm aware of it, then I'll let it go faster because of that.
Well, see, that's where my self disdain would kick in, as if I suddenly realize I'm eating all the cookies in the cookie jar, like, oh, I hate myself now.
Yeah, but you've got to do it without judgment.
Right. Well, that's stage 3, I guess.
That's compassion. That's loving kindness.
My point is like, we're still at the stage of eating the cookies mindlessly, staring out the window going, what the fuck, instead of like, oh, maybe I should think about changing my life, Yeah,
it's an opportunity. Every day, no matter what we're presented with, is an opportunity to be more present. And so whatever is arising for each of us that has felt dormant, that we can open it up. And if we're not sure what that is because it's so dormant, then doing some online classes can help. Whether that's a dance class or a yoga class. You have the opportunity to get some inspiration from others in that way, and then take a little nugget and then work with it. Don't get stuck there. Like, then apply it and try it out. And we have to, those are the tools again. We get some tools going. They help us. Just yesterday, our teachers, for dealing with my own obsessive thinking, said, you got a body scan. Mm-hmm. I noticed my head, I noticed my arm, I noticed my leg, and so that's a tool. And so this morning, as I started to overthink, I was like, I noticed my head. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. Then I use that tool to help. And if I can slow down a bit, what opens? What's available if we slow down the thinking, the fear, the whatever, and create space? So that's all as a teacher and as a giver, that's all I'm trying to do is to give you a whole bunch of tools and through the physical form that delves into all the other good stuff, so that then we create space and then it's wide open for whatever is to come out of you.
Yeah.
I have no control over that. That's yours, and that's yours to enjoy, to see what arises out of all that space.
So when you, like, what is the main tool to stop that sort of automatic sort of, like, I'm going to indulge in my own freak out panic thoughts, or I'm going to reach for my phone and look at social media for an hour? What's the saving grace there that stops that sort of free fall, I would say? Like, what is it that you could, what tool could you use as a stop, or what do you call that? Like that sort of like a break, so you can get into that
I don't know
creative state.
I don't know if this works to say it, but I feel like it's just as simple as just calling it out. It's just awareness. It's just saying, before I do it, before I go, phone, I go, I am feeling this way, and I want to use my phone to help me. And then I have the choice to say, put it down. But so
you're talking about sort of an awareness that you already have in your possession.
Yeah. But we do. All we have to do is just kind of, it's, again, to bring up having children. A long time ago, I read this pop, and it was like this, the loud sound, right? It's just something that hits you, right? And it has to snap you kind of out of your, sleepy state.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That just makes you go on that autopilot through your day.
Right.
Like, you have to shock yourself back into awareness. And so sometimes I can't stop myself. Like the other day, I was allowing myself to get just caught into my cycle of obsessive thinking and feeling just irritated. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't stop myself from being irritated. So one thing that helps me is to play music that I love. It makes me super happy. Like, makes me just want to dance. Mm-hmm. And if I play music that's like just really makes me want to shake my butt, then it immediately helps me.
So that's kind of like that's an elixir of sorts, right? So you can.
Yeah, because I was washing the dishes and I was getting really frustrated mentally, and I kept telling myself, now, Nadine, see what you're doing? And I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And if I couldn't get out of the cycle, even though I brought awareness that I was in the cycle.
Right.
So I still needed something else. Maybe my next go-to is music, which then makes me just feel happier.
So you can kind of, like, music is a great bridge between the mental awareness and the body, right? Because you can dance, or you can at least, feel the rhythm in the body. Yeah. So that's like a nice mechanical way to make that connection. Mm-hmm. I often think that where the only hope I have is that I'm going to notice that I'm spinning out, or I'm going to notice that I'm spending, way too much time, like, looking at my phone, or freaking out about whatever. Especially, in this situation where we're just, like, kind of in this fishbowl, going around and around, like, you can get really into these I can get into a dark mood, after weeks of that. So I feel like my only hope is to just be able to notice it. And, So, definitely just going, stop, I'm going to put on some music.
You know, and
Nice. Or
I think that we do need to get reconnected to this body, this physical body. And I think that free form play, dance is really fantastic. And I think that everybody should do it. And I also I also think, you know, think about the baby who's, you know, shaking his butt when the music plays, and we all go, see, it's there. You know?
So it's an a priori thing that exists in human.
It already exists, and if you just play any music that you love, and it gets your body moving, done. So I do believe that, and I also think that there are many selves. You know, there's cooking, there's singing, there's other ways to use your body for those who like to run or whatever else. So I think whatever it is that makes you feel the happiest, you should do. You know, that's something that's healthy for you.
So happy is okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And, you know, that's healthy and safe for you and others. You know, as it stays into that framework, that whatever it is that works for you, use it. And again, if you're not sure, or if you've been so far apart from those things, you might have to do a little digging in your own past. It's like, what did you love to do?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be the same thing now, but maybe start there. Or again, like find inspiration from somebody else that is close to you or inspires you. Look there, you know, until you find your way in to yourself.
Right.
But it's in there already.
So with MovementLab, you have sort of a method to like basically expedite this change in relationship, and that's would that be a feature of MovementLab, or is it all of these things we've discussed? I mean, is it?
Yeah, I think that MovementLab is testing us or working with us in ways on utilizing the physical form, using free-form movement, more playful expression of the body, and also technical aspects through yoga or more dance training movements that bring in technique and strength in the body. And then games that help us to cross the bridge between the mind and the body, or emotions and body, our stories, and how we live them and how we can explore them. A whole body. The MovementLab is about exploring on the whole body, whole self way, and utilizing whatever I come up with, whatever I get inspired by to share. Any creative tool within that. Sometimes we draw and journal and use objects in the room and things like that. So whatever can be utilized to help us to creatively explore our whole self, and that the idea, the goal is to help us in our day-to-day life to live more fully in our potential, in who we are, that's beyond our jobs and you know, our economic status and whatnot. That's like who we know we are. You know, when we say that, what that means to us, who am I? And, you know, and to be able to live more there and to infiltrate that into our jobs and into our day-to-day as much as possible.
So it's not really, is it like a class, or is it more like a school of practice?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a school of practice.
So there's basically rudimentary form. Like in my sense about a school of practice is that there's some foundational things, exercises or tasks, or you know, something that's sort of a cornerstone of the existence in that category of learning, and then and then there's this sort of open field where you can play around with those things, and synthesize them into something else. So
yeah. Well, if you came to a movement lab class, right now it's formulated in a way of warming up the physical body, just kind of jarring, the mind into like let go of the day, some physical movement that is guided into some exploration, visualizing, using imagination through some tasks that we do that involve the body and creativity, and then into free-form dance, where there's no guiding then, and you're on your own to explore in whatever way, shape, or form that is. But Movement Lab on a bigger scale also includes yoga classes, massage, body work, body care, immersions or retreats that allow us to, in a way like the 10-day meditation, to allow you to take a week off and come and really practice a handful of these tools over a chunk of time. And also includes performance. And that could be, that's performance that the teachers do, and it also is open for performance for those who are involved as students, doing things outside, outdoors, or in public, and taking it even to that degree. So there's a lot of things underneath the umbrella of the Movement Lab. But if you came to a Movement Lab class, there's definitely a pattern of how we go through the class.
Right.
Yeah, from structure through into visualization, imagination to freeform.
Well, I happen to know that you were planning something in the summer here at the Earthship community, but now that's not clear whether or not that's going to happen. But that was partly sort of a living in eco housing, or getting exposure to eco housing, and that relationship, as well as the things you just described, right? But now, right now, everything's online. Obviously, you can't have public classes, right? But you're continuing to do Movement Lab in cyber form, right?
Yeah. So on Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we do this class of form, visualization, free form. We're doing that on every Thursday, and then if we are able to do the meadow immersion in August, and if not, we'll rain check it till when we can. But that is a way for us to take all this personal work and to reflect more outward. That it's not just about me, it's not just about our own selves, it's about our relationship to everything and everyone else as well. So here we are, everybody would be staying in Earthships to experience what that means to be in an off-grid home. How is your sensitivity to your environment different because of that? And not that you have, that we're looking for you to choose to live in such a different environment from what you're used to, but that it opens and expands our way of thinking, or again, just brings awareness to how do I live and what is my impact on the world or on the planet as an individual. Yeah, how are my choices to be in my day-to-day, and how I'm in my day-to-day, or what's my city life, or whatever that environment is. And just being aware of its impact on a bigger level is important. And obviously, right, the planet is telling us that it's important.
Right. Well, everybody's, I think that it's kind of a cultural meme, and as well as like a generally accepted reality that, acting locally and living globally is kind of maybe not globally accepted way of being, but it's definitely in the consciousness of most people now that we do have a relationship with global society and the environment on a whole Earth sort of level that we sort of have that option, and that maybe it's not optional anymore. Like we really have to all sort of row in the same direction, I guess.
Well, and just like the tools of what tools to use for your body and opening your, mental state and whatnot, it's good to be exposed to what tools there are in construction of homes. To go, oh, yeah, okay, I didn't think about that. Or to be just inspired by it, to realize that there is so much more out there, than we are ever aware of. And that to get ourselves exposed to things that are new for us, this opens our perspective. And that's just, that educating is always going to be worthwhile and inspiring. And I would say that the virus is what you were saying and was making me think about, well, the virus being so global is definitely showing us that we can travel from place to place so easily, and so we are constantly affecting each other in one way or another, and I hope that it continues to show us that we're not just over here doing our thing and you're over there doing your thing, but that we are affecting each other all the time, just by all participating on this planet.
Sure, yeah. Well, maybe ideas are kind of like the virus. They just sort of get out and they start infecting everyone. And the power of ideas is pretty palpable if you can, if they are indeed sort of along the lines of self-sustaining communities and that sort of thing. Hopefully they do take hold, and at least that's a subject that's close to my heart. So I'd like to see ideas about sustainability and eco living really start to take hold and flourish.
Yeah, and why is this something? I mean, some people have been talking about it for a very long time, but why is this something that's becoming more important now when it should have just been a way to be all along? But we've drifted so far into these technologies exist, and so we can use these things, and we don't really think about the repercussions in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter, and here we are, we're going along our way. And just like detaching the mind from the body, we're detaching ourselves from our environment so far that we forget that we're on it every single moment of the day. We are constantly impacting it and it us, and yet we've created a separation between the two that needs to just come back together. And I think it makes a lot more sense when we just reunite,
Well, yeah. Suppose so. I mean, it seems like right now just all the cogs in the machine have sort of come disengaged, and that is an interesting opportunity to be able to look at all these components and how and why they affect each other and whether or not they're even necessary. And I think there's been a lot of talk about we've been doing it this way all along, but now it's not really clear why. We're just continuing to let the machine just sort of run itself the way it's been.
Yeah.
Well, our hour's up, so thank you for being a guest on the first podcast of EarthLab33. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
Ultimately, I feel like it's just always about awareness. And if I say anymore, I'll just keep talking. So, and move your booty. Just shake it.
Move your booty.
Just shake it. It'll be okay.
Oh, you'll show them on Thursday.
I'll show you
How
on
to shake their
Thursday.
booty.
MovementLab Actually, you can register at yoga.movementlab.dance.
There's your plug.